Hello, folks. Welcome to episode one of our member chats.
We have Tom Kennedy from Experience Ireland Golf and Travel. Tom, absolute pleasure to have you on today. How are you?
Yeah, thanks, Graham. Yeah, all generally good, I suppose. All things considered, like you put in most emails you send people now, along with stay safe at the end of it. So we're hanging in there now. It's been a tough nearly year of it. So we're from our own point of view, we're getting a lot of inquiries and some bookings. A lot for next year and some for later on this year. So let's hope they can bloody travel. Because don't think any of us are probably able for another year of what we've just gone through. So
So, obviously, you've had quite an extensive career in the industry. You've been in golf for well over 20 years. But I want to take it back to the very start. So, how did you sort of first get into the golf industry?
yeah, it was back in County Limerick, I suppose, with the now home of hurling, obviously. We had I had a few buddies that had started working in Adare, this mysterious uh, resort slash golf course that golfers are only starting to hear about it. I think it opened in 95, 96, and it started getting, I suppose, a few tourist golfers. It was American owned back then. It was a former Vietnam fighter pilot named Thomas F. Kane, I think was his full name. So yeah, that's a longer story how he ended up buying it, but he was owner anyway, and he was good friends with Robert St. John Senior. So I think it was his last ever design was in Ireland, and one of his best, having played a few of them. Until obviously Tom Fazio got his hands on it a few years ago, with the JP investment. So I pretty much started caddying in Adare. The princely sum at that time was 16 Irish pounds per bag. It's a little bit more now.
Incredible, yeah.
So, so yeah, that was, I suppose, as a kind of 15, 16-year-old kid, it was decent pocket money anyway. So you'd probably be, I suppose, a double bag was getting you 50 Irish pounds back then. It's more like, I'm sure you can attest to, it's probably more like €100 minimum now for a double bag. Um, there was an old caddy in the old head used to say when they used to ask him, hey Doc, can we pay you in dollars? He's like, well, if there's enough of them. So there was, it's certainly, there's certainly better paid than we were then. I suppose the Irish caddy back then was the equivalent of the nurse or the doctor, underappreciated and even paid less. So but I suppose we had a great cast of characters back then, and we were all good buddies, and I suppose we did a bit of everything really, on and off the course.
Yeah.
Um, but we all did a bit of caddying, and we all did a bit of work in the shop, and millions of range balls picked up between the lot of us. So it was there for pretty much six seasons, and so all sorts of stuff. We did a few Aer Lingus pro-ams, and we had the Ladies World Cup of Golf there in 2000. So that was an interesting one. I was caddying for Kelly Booth on the American team, who I think played Solheim once. A couple of years later, and Heather Bowie as well. There was a guy called David Morris, who's the son of Ivan, who's a well-known golf journalist. We were team USA for the week, so we'd probably more crack with Laura Davies and Trish Johnson. I think we played them, I think, on the final day. So we'd go crack with them. We'd a few drinks after in the players slash caddies lounge downstairs in the clubhouse. So that was, it was just, as a golfer, it was a great place to be working. As I'm sure you probably agree, working up in Castle Rock, that you're spending your office is pretty much the golf course, and many
Yeah.
times there was, you'd go double and play 9 holes, and then
Yeah.
go down to the get down to Pat Collins's bar and waste it all. Be have barely a five in your pocket for the following
Yeah.
morning.
I've done that many a
Um,
time. You would go out and you would caddy 18 holes, and then you would go out and play 18 holes yourself, and then up to the bar after for a few pints. But it's a great point you make that the industry has changed quite a lot. Like as you say, you were making, was it 15 or 16 euros or something per bag, but now it's, as you say, you could get, if you double bag, you could get you get quite a considerable amount. And I mean, for someone my age, it's a fantastic gig to have over summer. I mean, you're outside and you're where you want to be. You're at the golf course, and as you say, you can nip out with your friends after. So obviously, you've seen the golf tourism industry in Ireland grow and change over the past sort of 15 to 20 years. So do you want to maybe touch on that as to how you've seen it sort of grow, and especially with the rise of sort of North American tourists as well? How have you seen the industry grow in Ireland as of recent times?
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, well, it's I suppose it's had its ups and a few small downs. I suppose you know, outside of COVID, I suppose the 2008 kind of crash that I suppose you know, hit probably more, I suppose, the domestic market more than the tourist market. I still think the clubs like Portrush and Ballybunion, Lahinch, County Down, you know, etc. Lots others that we could mention. You know, they were fine. It was the ones that were relying more on the golf societies and maybe the corporate Irish element that probably struggled, that wouldn't have a massive member base. I mean, a lot of the links courses and some of the bigger, I suppose, the more traditional and older parklands around the country, probably could just rely on the member subs, and that would get them through. But the ones that were, I suppose, built in the 90s to 2000s boom in golf probably struggled around then. I suppose I saw the biggest development. I mean, Adare was always busy, especially in the hotel. You know, with the American tours, they'd be as busy with probably the sightseeing tours as would be the golf. Because I suppose as fantastic as a course as Adare is, I suppose they have a lot of those types of courses in the States, so they'd be looking for their Hinches, Tralees, Ballybunions, Watervilles, Dukes, Old Head, and up north. Then I suppose, you know, you'd be County Down, Portrush, Castlerock, Ardglass, Port Stewart, you know, all the ones on the west coast like Carn and Escrone, County Sligo, and obviously Portmarnock then be very popular, and County Louth and European and all the rest on the east coast. So I mean, I mainly saw it when I went to the Old Head in 2000, just the absolute, you know, glut of tourists. And I mean, you know, you're talking like 200 plus golfers a day. You're going from like 6:30, 7 in the morning till the last tee time, and it's
Really?
You know, you'll have your, you know, your few members, but they were mainly all from the state. They were mainly from the States. There was a few Irish members. There's a few more now that joined. I suppose that joined kind of around between 2008 2010. But I mean, it was just mad. It was like you were going all day. And I mean, I was caddy. I worked there from 2002 2006. I was caddiemaster 05 and 06, and we had 170 caddies on the roster, I suppose you'd call it, and they were like flat out, like from, I suppose, the drop of the flags in kind of April, May up till the end of October when the course closed. Kind of last day of October is pretty much when they close, and especially September, the guys who, you know, you'd have some teachers that would obviously have the summer off, a little bit more time off now with schools closed, but like they'd caddy during the summer, which was great for filling the roster.
You've been a caddy and a caddy master, so I suppose you've seen both sides of the industry. You've seen the organisational side, and then obviously the front facing caddy as well. So I guess from your experience, which one brought you more enjoyment? Was it meeting the golf tourists firsthand, or was it sort of the more organisational side that you found more joy from?
There was probably, I suppose, better crack was probably, I suppose, the caddying side of it, because you were, you know, they get called various things, independent contractors and wind distance and alignment consultants and all these things, depending on what you know, weird and wonderful business cards are given out to the golfers. But you know, it was better fun caddying. There's a bit more freedom, I suppose. You're kind of, you know, there's not much real pressure caddying for a tourist golfer, really. I mean, you get the odd one that'll last the yardage, and then he'll use his Bushnell rangefinder to test it as well. So you go toe to toe with those kind of people every now and then. But look, you're out for usually 5 hours, can be a bit longer, but generally it was about the 5 hour mark, and yet, you know, you get to know these people quite well. I mean, the vast majority of times they're there for you know, they're on holiday, they're there to have a good time, and you know, generally we're there to make sure that they have that. So you know, it'll be with all the lines of glass. If it was wrapped in ham, Lassie couldn't find it, and the Fisher Grade putters and all these the love grass and all these things. So you know, you throw all those things in, and you know, I suppose they lap it up a little bit, not to throw away too many tricks of the trade, but you know, I suppose the caddiemaster side of it was more. There was more, I suppose, more guaranteed work, because you're in either some weeks you'd be in every day, depending on how busy it would be. But you know, there's a bit more, I suppose, certainty to it. And I suppose at times it can be easier than lugging bags. It's good training for any sort of management with any number of people, I think. You know, being a caddy master, because they're, you know, like we had, especially in the old head, like we had 170 caddies, and you know, they were all generally working, you know, a few times a week, if not 5 to 6 times a week, and especially around the member guests, like they'd all pretty much be in, and it'd be absolutely, you know, I suppose, backs to the wall in terms of how busy it was. So
What a great insights there. It definitely is an industry like no other. I mean, I know myself. Like, I mean, I started caddying when I was 15, but some of the stories, and as you say, it is great fun caddying. Like, there's always a good bit of banter and stuff, and you go in and sort of discuss your round after. And you listed a handful of courses there you worked for, obviously Adare and Old Head. But sort of taking more of a macro perspective, if you were to look at all the golf courses in Ireland now, what would you rank sort of in your top 3 golf courses in Ireland, if you could pick 3?
Yeah, it's tough one. I suppose, as a tour op, trying to be as politically correct as I can, but I suppose for me, and I suppose there's a slight Munster bias, but and my mum's from there as well, but Lahinch should probably be my favorite. I don't know if it's technically the best, but I suppose beauty's in the eye of the beholder. So Lahinch for me would be the best. And Adare, Port should be number 3 anyway. I have played that, obviously. Now, like, if certain people would rank courses they haven't played, but I tend to want to have played the course before I give my opinion on it. But I was due to play Portstewart, sorry, in the middle of October last year, but early October we were kind of shut down to county only travel, so which meant county only golf. So Portstewart definitely on my list for 2021. I played Castle Rock a couple of years ago, but we got to 14 or 15 before I kind of ended the round. So I think we hopped up to the 18 to get in, but we could fairway. But so it'd be nice to play Castle Rock again and get the full 18 in. Then a couple of other courses. Would love to see the new St. Patrick's Links up in Rosapenna when it does open. I know the Casey's, I think, were due to maybe open it in October last year, but I'm not sure if it happened or not. So it'd be nice to see what Tom Doak has done. He's finally, I think, after a few times of potentially getting projects that didn't quite get off the ground. I think it'd be great to see what he's done up there. I suppose it's a site that was initially 36 holes, but they're putting 18 in there, so it looks like a pretty phenomenal piece of land for links. So it'd be interesting to see that. Heard and seen so much about Crude Island, so as a 9-hole lover of a 9-hole course, we'd like to see that. And I've yet to play the European Club, so Pat Ruddy, if you're listening, still waiting for the invite. So yeah, that's and County Loud as well, actually.
Yeah.
Have not played that yet, so that's probably my few to play this year. If a few others come up in the meantime, would be great to play. But slowly but surely getting through the list of the great and the good. Nearly there.
Yeah, I'm a good ways behind you in the golf courses played. Yeah, I'm still in my early days of my golfing career, so I've got a lot to take off the bucket list. A lot of the ones you mentioned down south there, like the European Club, Louth, Lahinch, still have to play that. So if things do recover, I'll definitely do a bit of a tour down south this year for sure, and try and take off a few. So just to conclude,
Yeah.
it'd be great if you could tell us a bit more about what you're actually working on now with Experience Ireland Golf Tours, and I suppose how the company's had to adapt to last year. Obviously, it's been very tough for everyone in the golf industry. So what's the last year been like, and sort of what are your plans going forward?
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, it's probably still hasn't stopped yet, but the first few months, as I'm sure other tour operators that our industry colleagues and our colleagues in hotels and golf courses and restaurants and the transport, all the luxury buses that are very well kitted out and have great drivers and guides on them. I suppose they were all in a very similar boat, that we were, rescheduling a lot of the tours, if not all of them, to this year. And I suppose similarly to probably what we all did, COVID would be a short-lived thing, and I suppose numbers were up initially in kind of, I suppose, March into April and March to May, and then they started to kind of dwindle off, and we were, especially in Ireland, enjoying very low numbers, and we managed to get on back on the golf course, I think on the 18th of May. So that was an encouraging sign. But I mean, I suppose outside of Ireland, then, I mean, what was going on in the States and everything. But that's what a lot of 2020 was rescheduling a lot of things. We had to reschedule our April event, which was due to take place in middle of October, and literally a week before, I think it was Tuesday, the 3rd or the 6th, whichever it was. Now I can't remember. I'm trying to blank out 2020, to be honest. Apart from a couple of things. So that got kind of that got called a week before, so we had to move that again to this April. So obviously we're about 3 months out from that. So that's hopefully going to go ahead as planned. It might be more of an Irish only tournament, depending on we usually get a good international flavour to it. Just depends on what the travel restrictions are at that stage. So that's been moved. Been getting a few 2020 bookings for later in the season. There's a big pent up demand for people to get traveling once it's safe to do so. So hopefully by, I suppose, June, July, August, September time, things will be getting a bit more normal again. We do need to look at hospitality professionals as well, because I suppose once hotels and bars, restaurants, golf courses open, I suppose the staff need to have some kind of a safeguard against getting the virus as well. So that's something that people aren't talking about either. So I suppose we need the tourism minister who's on this side, who seems to have about 6 or 7 other portfolios to, I suppose, for her card to be marked in that regard anyway. So let's hope she might be a member of the caddy community, and she might
hopefully we can get her on.
She might listen.
That would be ideal.
Talking about today,
Yeah. That sounds fantastic, and you've definitely done a lot to sort of adapt your business model to cope with these trying times, and there's definitely a lot to be learned from that. Again, thanks very much for taking the time. I think that's the main chunk of it done. I'm going to end off pretty lighthearted, just with a few sort of quick fire questions. Some to do with caddy and some not. So I'll fire through them here anyway. So first question: driving or putting?
Putting.
Putting. For caddying, would you rather go single bag or double bag?
Always a double, I suppose. Typical caddy, just double the money.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. Would you be a fair weather golfer, or would you play through all the elements?
Fair weather, to be honest. I mean, if you're playing competition, I suppose you just have to get on with it. But fair weather, preferably. I don't know who wants non-fair weather.
And finally, one word to describe your golf career to date.
Oh, mixed.
That's
I
understandable.
don't mean mixed foursomes, unfortunately. I never picked for the mixed foursomes. I don't know why, but yeah, definitely mixed. Hopefully we're going to improve now with all my lining up coaches at the moment. So we'll be just have to get a golf psychologist that's willing to take me on, and then I think we're good.
Excellent. Again, Tom, thanks very much for your time. Just to the rest of the members, I'm going to try and do this sort of segment once every month. So if you do want to feature in next month's member interview, then please comment down below. We'll try and facilitate as many as we can over the next few months. Tom, again, absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for your time, and looking forward to getting to know you better this year anyway.
Cheers, Graham. Yeah, great to talk to you. And look, very good initiative, and hopefully a few plenty caddies and other industry people will get on board and support it. Really good idea. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Looking forward to see it grow this year. Thank you again, Tom.
Cheers, Graham. Have a good one.